I'm Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North. The Northland was the center of the political world last week when both major party candidates for president were in the region. We will analyze the importance of visits of President Trump and former Vice President Biden with some political experts. And we will continue our Meet Your Candidates coverage. This week, we will hear from the candidates running in Minnesota Senate District 6 and Wisconsin's 74th Assembly District. That's coming up next on Almanac North. Hello once again and welcome to Almanac North. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Dennis Anderson. Julie is off this week as we alternate hosting the program during the pandemic. Our show was recorded on Thursday afternoon. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to dominate the headlines. Bars in Ashland, Wisconsin have now been ordered closed after the majority of recent COVID cases were linked to local taverns. The Ashland County Health Department ordered drinking establishments in the city of Ashland and surrounding area closed for 17 days beginning Friday. Bar owners and any customers found violating that order could be fined up to $500. Meanwhile, Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers has extended the state's mask mandate to November 21st due to a surge of COVID cases, especially on college campuses. But Republican lawmakers say the governor's order is illegal and likely headed for litigation. More than 100,000 Wisconsinites have now tested positive for COVID, and over 1,200 have died since the beginning of the pandemic. The Duluth Entertainment and Convention Center opened the first saliva testing site in Minnesota this week. The less invasive test for COVID-19 is free to anyone who believes they need to be tested. The site is open Wednesday through Sunday with walk-ups accepted, but pre-registration is encouraged to avoid long waits. Shipments through the Port of Duluth Superior continue to lag due to the pandemic, according to the Duluth Seaway Port Authority. The mid-season tonnage report shows totals are 31% behind the pace set last year. Bright spots for the port are in grain shipments and a robust season for wind turbine components, which may set a port record this year. And there is new interest in the city-owned aircraft maintenance base at the Duluth Airport. AAR pulled out of that facility in May as the commercial aircraft maintenance market bottomed out due to the pandemic. Now a company called Boresight is bidding on a government contract to maintain U.S. Air Force F-16 jets at the base. The Duluth Economic Development Authority will allow Boresight to lease the base if it lands the Air Force contract. Northern Minnesota landed the big names in the presidential campaign last week. Democratic candidate Joe Biden and Republican President Donald Trump were in northern Minnesota just hours and 150 miles apart. First, we'll bring you extended comments from their speeches and hear from their supporters. And then we will have analysis from political science professors about the significance of these visits. We'll begin with Joe Biden, who toured a union carpenter training center in Hermantown Friday mid-afternoon. He addressed union officials and reporters in a socially distant speech.
Here in Minnesota and all across the country, there are plenty of folks who are hurting. They're worried about making their next mortgage payment. They're keeping their rent payments in check. They see the people at the top of the heap doing very well. An incredible number. Billionaires in America during this pandemic have made another $300 billion. Hear what I just said? In the middle of the pandemic. They're left to wonder, as a consequence, ordinary folks, who's looking out for me? You know, that's been the entire story of Donald Trump's presidency. And now, in the midst of this unprecedented national crisis, Trump has given up on even pretending to do his job. Almost 200,000 lives lost in the last 6 months. And experts tell us now the same studies have relied on, the administration's relied on to predict what's coming next, that we're going to lose another 215,000 lives between now and January 1st. The United States has another 36,000 new COVID cases per day. Another average 1,000 deaths a day. Just across the border, figuratively speaking, a stone's throw into Canada. One day earlier this month, the United States had 1,000 deaths of COVID. Canada had 0. Just 3 days ago, I believe it was. America had 1,200 deaths. Canada had 9. So many lives lost unnecessarily because the president is only worried about the stock market and his reelection. He refused to do what you're doing right here in this program: social distance, wear masks, sanitize. You're protecting your apprentices. He's not protecting America. It's estimated by the scientists that if we just wore masks nationally, we'd save 100,000 lives between now and January 1st.
Biden's supporters gathered last Friday during the candidate's visit to the Northland. 8th District DFL organizers stress masks and social distancing were required. They wanted to welcome Biden to the area ahead of his campaign stop and were holding signs along Highway 53 and Levake Road in Hermantown. One Biden supporter expressed her displeasure in White House leadership.
I'm here to support Joe Biden. I'm totally fed up with what we have in the White House right now. We need someone, an adult. We need someone with a brain to help fix this country again.
A Wall Street Journal NBC News poll of registered voters released over the weekend shows Biden leading President Trump here by 8 points, 51% to 43%. Later on Friday, hundreds of Trump supporters gathered at Bemidji Aviation Services to hear the president speak on his Great American Comeback Tour.
46 days from now, we're going to win Minnesota, and we're going to win 4 more years in the White House. One of the most vital issues in this election is the subject of refugees. You know it. You know it perhaps better than almost anybody. Lots of luck. You having a good time with your refugees? That's good. We want to have Omar. Yeah, he said Omar. That's a beauty. How the hell did she win the election? How did she win? It's unbelievable. Every family in Minnesota needs to know about Sleepy Joe Biden's extreme plan to flood your state with an influx of refugees from Somalia, from other places all over the planet. Well, that's what's happened. And you like Omar a lot, don't you? Biden has promised a 700% increase in the manifesto with Bernie, right? A 700% increase in the importation of refugees from the most dangerous places in the world, including Yemen, Syria, and Somalia. Congratulations, Minnesota. A 700% increase. Good luck, Minnesota. Enjoy yourselves. Because if I'm not here, if I don't win, I don't know where I'm going to be, but maybe I'll come over to see Mike. I'll come and see Mike. Your state will be overrun and destroyed if Biden and the radical left win. That's what's going to happen. I've been watching it for years. They haven't treated you right. They have not treated Minnesota right. Thank you. I'll tell you, these hangers are great. Remember this, it's a friendly protest. Please remember, this is not a rally. You're not allowed to have political rallies of any kind. You're not allowed to go to church. You're not allowed to do anything. The only thing you're allowed to do is run wild through the streets, burn down storefronts, blow up stores and kill people, because that's considered a protest, and that they allow you to have. You don't have to wear masks at protests. So I said, you know, we can't have a rally. The most we can have is 10 people. But why don't we just call it a protest? Because this is a protest.
As you can see, President Trump's supporters showed up at his campaign rally in Bemidji Friday in a sea of red. Our station partner, Lakeland PBS, reported thousands attended the rally. President Trump mentioned protests in Minneapolis and his belief that Democrat Joe Biden is weak and unfit to lead the nation. And one Trump supporter expressed displeasure in Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
Try to get us to pay for the damage that he allowed in Minneapolis. I say all lives matter. Not just black, not just Asian, not just all lives matter. Native American lives matter, absolutely, the whole 9 yards. And we've got to stand up for our beliefs, for our gun rights, for our religious rights, for our right to decide whether we want to wear a mask or not.
President Trump lost Minnesota by a small margin in 2016. Friday's visit was the first time a U.S. president has made a campaign stop in Bemidji. Well, there's a lot to analyze in the speeches and campaigns of the candidates, and our guests are here to help us with that. Dr. Cynthia Rugeley is associate professor at UMD and head of the political science department. And Dr. Alisa von Hagel is Associate Professor of Political Science at UWS. Thank you both for being here. Dr. Rugeley, let's start with you. We've got two major political candidates running for president in Minnesota at the same time. What does this say about our region?
Well, there's a couple things going on. One, it was a very close election in 2016. Immediately afterwards, Donald Trump came out and said, I'm going to carry Minnesota. So there's a certain element of pride. And I think what he's trying to do by judging, going to the rural areas and really get a high turnout, Biden is trying to limit that turnout in those rural areas and get the labor vote and things like that. Mm-hmm. It says, in a nutshell, that Minnesota's in play, at least in the eyes of the candidates.
Mm-hmm. Dr. von Hagel, Wisconsin's just across the border, also an important state in this election. How do you look at this?
I think it's a very similar case to Minnesota, where, in 2016, Wisconsin actually voted for the president. All 10 electoral votes went for the president, but it was a very small margin, and the state has voted Democrat for 10, 20 years before that. So it's also a state that is very similar in its makeup, where Trump is trying to find the rural voters and bring up enthusiasm for his campaign, and again hold on to the state of Wisconsin, which is also in play, it seems.
Both UWS and UMD are opened again. What are you hearing from your students?
They
Scratching their head, maybe?
Yeah, they're realizing that we're all just doing the best that we can, and they are, in terms of the campaigns, yes, and the political candidates. I think it's gotten to the point where just people can't deal with every day there seems to be a new, I can't even say disaster or something, and so I think there is a lot of sort of apathy that's starting to grow, just disconcern with, the way that the discussion is held, and fear, I think, too, in terms of the future of what that may look like for them as, if they are international students who are here on campus, or, if they graduate and go on to the labor force, what that may look like in the future.
Dr. Rugeley, what are you hearing?
Well, I don't think they're particularly pumped up about either one of the candidates. I think they're going to vote. I think that, as Alisa said, a lot of them are really concerned about the economy. They're concerned about their futures. They're they see a lot of the arguments. I don't think they like the chaos. I think that, as you said, I think that their heads are kind of rolling. I've found in my classes that as political science majors that, it's not that, people say that it's a Democratic area. Well, it's not with students. It's pretty evenly mixed. Mm-hmm. But again, when you talk to them, they don't really, it's not something that they'd give up their family farm for either one of them. Mm-hmm. It's
Are you finding that perhaps students today aren't necessarily voting then the same way as their parents did, that things have changed? It used to be where if mom and dad were a Democrat or Republican, all the kids were Democrats or Republican. Is this changing?
I think to a certain extent, although I think this is a election that will start to change that. And I think that, as you mentioned, that students aren't happy with either of the candidates, but are really wanting to make a difference. And there's huge levels of organization of college students, especially in Wisconsin, throughout the state, to really just bring people to the polls. And again, if you don't necessarily like both or either candidate very much, there's still this emphasis on the need for your future, for the future of everyone else to go out and vote and to make a difference.
Why do you think politics has become so contentious?
It's been kind of heading in that direction for a while. It was interesting because it was talked about today how when Barack Obama and John McCain were running against each other, one of them won, one of them lost, but they both had about 60% favorability ratings. It's hard to believe that now. And
That's not that long ago.
No, it's not. And I mean, that's what my students, they think it's always been this way. But again, I think a lot of it is, it's definitely gone to the extreme recently, where it's really launched into kind of a us versus them campaign. That seems to be a lot of the focus of Trump's campaign in particular. It's always been there, but it's never been this overt. It's, I stand up for the little guy, you don't, and but it's never been this, I'm going to get rid of the immigrants, I'm going to get rid of, this kind of stuff. And again, I don't know why it's gotten that way this particular election, except it worked.
Northern Minnesota is leaning toward President Trump right now. Are you finding the same thing, Doctor, in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin?
In general, yes, the rural areas are more likely to vote for Trump, and polls show that he is leading in a number of rural counties there, but his lead is actually starting to decline as compared to 2016. Given the threats of coronavirus that still are present and don't seem to be going away anytime soon, there's really a, people want change and they want that to be, addressed. And so he does have a lead, but it's not quite as significant as it was before.
Donald, you go ahead, please.
What she's saying, I think you're finding consistent in Minnesota too. If you look back on it, Trump won the 8th congressional district, Duluth and the areas around it, by 16 percentage points. But he didn't really get that many more votes than Mitt Romney. It was Hillary Clinton that seriously underperformed. And so that's the real challenge for him in Minnesota, is that he's got to rack up these huge margins, the same type margins that he got when people weren't voting for Hillary Clinton, plus hold what he got in the suburban areas and maybe get a little bit more to offset what's happening in the Twin Cities. So he's got a tough, it would have to be a perfect storm really for him to work, and I'm not saying it can't happen, but again, it's a difficult challenge for him to keep those same margins that he had before. He'll probably meet it in, I don't know, I'm not going to say that because I haven't seen any polling, but anyway, that's the challenge he faces.
How important is a presidential visit to your community during a campaign?
I think that it drums up enthusiasm with your base, and what we see with Trump's base that...
Does it change minds, do you think, Doctor?
I'm not sure if it changes minds necessarily. I think that those who turn out, especially in these times, that those who are turning out are those that are very hardcore base supporters, and at this time they perhaps, given again different events that have come up and reasons why people might be maybe not tending to vote towards Trump anymore, that this is a visit will help them to kind of garner that enthusiasm and get to the polls. And so if anything, I think it just drums up enthusiasm amongst the base.
Is there a coattail effect? Other politicians of the same party, when they see a president come to town, is there a coattail effect?
There's a coattail effect in the voting. As Alisa said, I think a lot of it really drums up support and it gets enthusiasm when they come to town. I'm not certain that it changes any minds. But yeah, it does. The more people that turn out to vote for Joe Biden, chances are that they may go in and vote also for other Democrats on the ticket. CD8 again is kind of weird in the sense that people here aren't afraid to split their votes. You saw that in 2016 where Trump comes out with a 16 percentage point advantage. Nolan wins the Democrat by 2 percentage points.
I need a short answer. Joe Biden is not making big public appearances. Is that a mistake?
I think that's what his base wants. It seems that that's what his base wants.
You don't think that that's going to hurt him in the long run?
I mean, he's following the laws of, respective states that he's attending, going to. And so I think that for his base that, are, again, the people that he wants to, garner up enthusiasm, that's what they're expecting. That's what they more so desire.
Okay, Professor Alisa von Hagel, Professor Cynthia Rugeley, can't thank you enough. Thanks for being here tonight. All right, thank you so kindly. This week, we continue our coverage of the state legislative races in our region. We've invited all of the candidates running for either the House or Senate in our viewing area to submit short videos to introduce themselves to voters. This week on Meet Your Candidates, we will hear from the candidates in Minnesota Senate District 6 and Wisconsin's 74th Assembly District. We'll begin with the candidates in Wisconsin's 74th District, which includes all of Ashland, Bayfield, Iron, and Price counties, and portion of Vilas County around the Lac du Flambeau Reservation. We will hear first from the Republican candidate James Bolin, followed by incumbent Democrat Beth Myers.
Hi, I'm James Bolin, and I'm running to be your representative for the 74th Assembly District because I think it's time we had a stronger voice in Madison. I believe you elect a representative and they go down to where the bills are being passed and make sure the other legislators understand how those bills will affect our district. As I've traveled throughout the 74th, I've heard one thing very clear. Madison passes a lot of bills that don't make sense in northern Wisconsin, or they forget about us altogether. As your next representative, I'll make sure that doesn't happen. I love northern Wisconsin. My wife Heather and I have chosen to live and raise our family here. For the last 23 years, our family has run the Lake Owen Resort just outside of Cable, and I spent 12 years as the executive director of the Cable Area Chamber of Commerce. In my career, I learned that building relationships was the key to moving things forward and getting things done. I have the talent needed to build the relationships to make sure northern Wisconsin is forgotten no longer. I'm James Bolin, and I'm asking for your vote on November 3rd.
Hello, I'm Representative Beth Myers, and I'm running for re-election to represent the 74th Assembly District. I've been honored to be a voice in Madison for the people of northern Wisconsin. My record speaks for itself. I've been an advocate for family-supporting jobs, fixing our roads and bridges, security for seniors, expanding broadband and cell phone coverage, and protecting our natural resources. I take the time to listen to what's most important to my constituents. I have no problem rolling up my sleeves and doing the hard work across the aisle. I don't work for a political party or any donor. I work for the people of northern Wisconsin, and I work to make a better tomorrow for our children. I'll never stop being an advocate for the people and the place I love so much. Thank you for your support.
And next we will hear from the candidates running in Minnesota Senate District 6. This district includes a large portion of central St. Louis County and eastern Itasca County. We'll hear from Republican challenger John Moran, followed by DFL incumbent Senator David Thomasoni.
My name is John J. Moran. I'm from northern Minnesota. Born in Eveleth, went to school in Gilbert, Minnesota, raised on a farm. I worked in the mining industry for 37 years with breaks and services and layoffs. I worked for J&L, Eveleth Taconite, and LTV Steel. In fact, I was one of the few people to shut down the place, me and my partner. We broke pipes on the pond to get all the water out. The reason I'm running for Senate, the straw that broke the camel's back, was when the governor shut down the state, which was not his right. He does not have the right to play God. He cannot predict the future. I want to thank WDSE and get out and vote.
Hi, I'm State Senator David Thomasoni. It is truly an honor and a privilege to represent you at the state capitol in St. Paul. You know, my college hockey coach always said you can't substitute experience. The experience I have gained and the relationships I have developed over my years as your state senator are extremely valuable in performing the duties of my job. The politics of all or nothing governing has to stop. I know the process and I know the players at the Capitol, which allows me to be effective at reaching across the aisle, working with both Democrats and Republicans to achieve compromise. When people have jobs, many problems go away, which is why I fight every day to maintain our way of life and our good-paying union jobs, high-quality education, and health care. I hope you will allow me to continue to serve you by voting for me in the general election on November 3rd, or even earlier by mail. Thank you very much for listening, and stay safe.
And you can tell us what you think about our ongoing campaign coverage and keep up with Almanac North by following us on social media. You will find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Visit the WDSE website for program updates, upcoming events, and more information about the station. And download the PBS video app for on-demand viewing of your favorite programs. Thanks to our guests and the crew here in the studio, I'm Dennis Anderson. Stay healthy, good night everybody, and be kind.